Hello and welcome to the Alpha Anywhere demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Products and Services here at Alpha Software, and I'm pleased to present today Sarah Mitchell, our head of documentation, who's going to be going through some kind of cool Xbasic stuff. So today's going to be a little bit of an advanced session, but for those of you who have been with us for a little while, I think you're going to enjoy it and get a lot out of it. We're also joined today by Dion McCormick, our lead solutions engineer, or premier solutions engineer, I guess we call him now. And of course, at the end of our demo, we're always here to answer your questions. So you can type those questions into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel, or you can send them to us at guides, G-U-I-D-E-S, at alphasoftware.com. All right, let's get started. Hello, Sarah, are you there?
Yeah. Hi.
Excellent. Hi there. You're off mute
How's it
and
going?
everything. Good. I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter, and I'm going to drop off a camera.
I will too.
Oh, well,
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, we got to see you.
Yep.
So Sarah,
Share my screen.
Yep. I'm going to say, oops, I got to click a button here first. And then there is your screen. Awesome. Looking at Alpha Anywhere in the Farmington app.
Yes. Some of you who went to DevCon probably remember this. So today I wanted to show you guys a feature that was mentioned in one of the sessions at DevCon, the ability to use Word as a way to create reports, and how you can use these Xbasic functions we've got to quickly build out a report. And what I've done here with Farmington, which I'll show here in live preview shortly, is I've updated our submit order, which used to just log everybody out or refresh the page, to generate a report with a Word document that contains the invoice. And I wanted to show you what that does first before we dive into any technical stuff. So I'm going to go over here to live preview and walk through it. So for those of you who are new to this is Farmington. It was an app developed for DevCon, and we might take it a bit further. As I'm demonstrating today, it's going a little bit further. So what it is a business to customer, B2C, B2B app. You log in, and then you're asked to pick a farm. The farms are plotted over here on the side. If you click on one of these, it highlights that farm so you know which one you're looking at. And the idea being that if this is the farm you're going to go buy your products at. And then once you've selected your farm, you're presented with a shop where you go through and you pick what you want to order. So maybe we want some Roma tomatoes. Maybe we want 7 pounds of that. 15 pounds of potatoes. Let's get red ones. A little bit of mushroom, a watermelon, and maybe some carrots. All right, so that all gets added to our cart. We can go to our cart, we can preview what's in there, we can modify it if we want to. I'm not going to show that. What I'm going to do is we're going to go to checkout. Then I'm going to check this box. It says I agree to terms and the conditions, and click submit order. And this may appear to do nothing, but what it's actually going to do is take all this data you see here, except the total, because I have to show you how to create these things, and generate a Word document that contains this information. So I'm going to click submit, and nothing will happen because this isn't going to show the file or anything, but it did generate it, which I can show you now inside the web project. So right now I have these files going into my web project folder, but this is the file that it created. We pull that open, and this is our invoice. There's our customer address, name, the items that they ordered, the quantity, the unit price for each one of those, and an initial total. Now this stuff down here is blank because I wanted to show you guys how to create this, how I created this this Word document. So if we take a look at the template that was used, it's this. So this is it's actually an invoice template I found on Microsoft's website, and then I deleted almost everything in it, and then added in these placeholders, which are actually special fields in Word. And we have some video. We have a video on how to create these from scratch, but I found there was an easier way to put this together, and that was to let Alpha Anywhere generate a template for me, and then copy the parts out that I wanted and put them in here. So just to kind of show you what's going on here in this template, we have a couple interesting things. We have placeholders. Oops. Hold on, I got to move this GoToMeeting stuff out of my way. There we go. That one. So we have these placeholders on the right here. You'll see have been replaced with actual data on the left. And interestingly, here where you see quantity, product, price, and total, this is actually multiple line items. And you'll also notice that these big long blank ones here, the order items start and end, aren't here in the end product. They're removed. So this this feature is referred to word merge JSON. It's an Xbasic function. What it does is it merges a bunch of JSON data into a Word template. And we have several functions for making that Word template. And the one I used for today's example is this Word template from sample JSON. So let's go and look at the Xbasic on the back end here. Have I confused anybody yet? Not yet. All right. So if we're on the controls here and we go down to the bottom of this UX, there's this submit order button. And in here, I've now got this Ajax callback. And what this does is it calls a function called generate invoice, and it also submits data from the list controls, which I need because I want to pull that cart list information out to put into that invoice. And if we look at the function over in Xbasic functions where I put it, it's actually pretty short. This looks like it's complicated, but there's some really handy functions available to you that make working with stuff like the list data pretty easy. So I'm going to put a debug one in here and we can walk through what's going on. Oh, hold on. Had a special guest cat. All right, so let's go back to live preview. And give this a moment. We'll log in, select the first farm. I'll go through this pretty quickly just so we have a few things in the cart. Cart, checkout, agree, submit. And now the debugger opens. So in here, when this function gets called as the Ajax callback, there's a bunch of information that gets passed into E, including this e.listData object, which contains all of the list data. And this is actually just a string of JSON data that has a lot of stuff going on in it. But I did a little bit of experimentation with this by using the JSON parse function to try to figure out where that cart information is located in here. And what I figured out was that the cart list was actually that last item number 4, which you can't really see very well in here. You can kind of maybe find that location, but it's not easy to see. But knowing that this is the 4th item in this JSON data, it allowed me to use the JSON path function to actually extract it. JSON path is a function available both client side and server side that will basically do a query on a JSON string and return to you that information. And here what I've got in this JSON path call is I'm passing it in the list data, and then I'm saying $dot bracket 3 bracket dot data, which says at the root node, which is this array, I want the third entry, and because JSON JavaScript is 0 indexed, that's actually the fourth entry. So I'm asking for the fourth item, which is the cart list, and I just want the data object from it. So looking here, I see that I have like a list ID value and a data value. I just want data. So calling JSON path on this, I will just get these line items out of the cart. So if I step here, we look at cart JSON. That's what gets returned here. And I do one more thing here. I unsquare and square it again. There's a couple of extra braces on the front here. That's just an artifact from calling the JSON path function. Sometimes it adds extra brackets on the outside. If I have unsquare, we'll remove them. But I noticed it removed all of them, and I do need this to be an array because I want to parse it into an actual array object and assign it into a pointer variable. And I'll explain that why in a moment. So I unsquare it, I add the brackets back, and that gets this data into the format that I want for the cart items. And then I call JSON parse and assign the result of that into order items on this data object I created at the beginning. Now if we look at data now, basically what I've done is I've converted this JSON into like an actual object array. I can drill down in here, look at each one of these values, and so on and so forth. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to build up a bunch of information into a JSON object for that word merge JSON later. And the easiest way to do that with Xbasic is to work with a pointer variable and then convert it over later. So I created order items. I want to grab the selected farm as a data item to have access to in my Word template. So I'm adding that here from the e.submitted data. We take a look at that real quick.
Hey, before we leave this script,
Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions people are asking about sort of how, just about syntax and stuff.
Yeah.
And if we go, maybe if we go through those and then you could go in after that, would that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. All right, so the first one was that up there where it says dim cart JSON as C equals JSON path, that $sign, can you tell me about what that operator is supposed to be? What does that $sign signify?
That $sign means the root of the JSON data. Let's go look at the JSON path.
Right. Also, I did paste the JSON path documentation into the chat window. So.
And the function here. So there's a bunch of examples in here, but that $sign is part of the syntax of JSON path, which is a function that we pulled in from NPM. And if you go up there, they have more explanation over all of the properties and everything like that, the syntax of extracting data out. So but the $sign basically means like here, if we look at store, it's everything in the store. And the store in this data set is right off of the root, which is what $sign dot means, is the root. So root dot store. So look inside store and give us all that data. Or here in this case, the third book. So $sign dot dot book. So cool. $sign would be here. So we're looking inside this data. The first dot is, I think it's just a shortcut for saying like whatever's inside that item. And then I lost track here. And look at book. So first dot would be store, second one would be book. There's no other item in here. So it's assumed that store is that root. If there'd been more than one, you'd probably have to specify what you meant off of the root. But then it's like the third book. right? And because it's a 0 index 2 means the third book, so you'd go 0, 1, 2, and it would return this object here.
Nice.
Yeah.
And just the next question, if you could just pop back to your code for a second. Someone just asked, could you have combined lines 7 and 8? And I guess you could have, but
I mean, I could have combined lines 6, 7, 8, and 10.
but
But
it's
I
just
didn't.
it's more
It's more
readable.
readable.
Good,
So
perfectly good answer.
yeah.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, I
And then,
could. Yeah.
yep. And then the last one is JSON path versus JSON parse. How does JSON parse different? What does JSON path
Oh,
do?
okay. So JSON path, you can think of it as submitting a query against the data source. The data source is your JSON, and the query is this funky string up here. You're
Yep.
asking for some information from that string.
Okay.
And JSON parse takes a JSON string object and converts it into a dot variable, into a
pointer
object,
Yep.
right? So I passed this in here and I assigned it into data.order items. And if we look at data.order items, this is an object.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually an array. It's got 3 entries in it. The first entry is our sorry about that, the sun-gold cherry tomatoes, make that taller. The second entry is the slicing tomatoes from our order. And the third entry, whoops, is our assorted cherry tomatoes. So that's what JSON parse does. It converts it to a different data type.
Very cool. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you right in the middle of all of that.
Oh, no worries. I
But
want to explain all of this.
I think if we went back to it, it might be like, oh, I totally forgot where I was. So, right.
Oh no, I can re-explain this as much as you guys need.
All right, cool.
So yeah. So what I'm doing here, and just to reiterate, if I haven't said it already, then is that I'm taking all the data out of my app, the cart data. I want to get the customer information, the selected farm. I want to put it into a JSON format. And so the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to build up a pointer variable called data. And in that, I'm going to have my order items. I'm going to add my selected farm. I also defined a pointer variable within it called customer, where I assign all of the customer information out of our app, and then do some additional processing before actually making the JSON down here that I want to put into the template. So everything else I get out of here is either calculate it or it's available in e.data submitted. And when you're in the debugger, you can actually double click on these things to add them to the watch down here. But I just wanted to show you e.data submitted. It contains all the values of the controls, including your list controls. It doesn't contain your list data. It just contains the values, so whatever the selected value is. But in here is the name, is my customer name. There's their phone number. We've got their state. Here's the selected farm that they picked. Some of this other stuff like product, the current selected product on the products list is the assorted cherry tomatoes item, so that's why that's there. But this is all the data from our list that gets sent back, or from our UX component sent in here. And I'm going to extract out that address, the city, the state, the name, the phone number, the email, and I'm putting it all here in data.customer, which I defined up here as a dot variable. I'm just going to step through all that. And then one more thing I need to do is to calculate the total of the order items. If you look at inside this order items and you go and look at something like the first item from our cart, and you go down and you look at total, or subtotal, I guess. Well, there's no total. I didn't realize there was a subtotal. Anyway, I'm adding a variable called total that's redoing this math here and formatting it as a number. So if I step through this once and do that calculation, you have to I have to convert type on the quantity and the price because they're actually characters in here, character strings. But if we go back up and we look at order items, data.order items, the first one, what we should see in here now is a total somewhere. And I might need to double click it. It's interesting that I don't see it here. Oh, I'm down here. I'm getting lost in the, there it is. There's total. And I've also formatted price to appear like a $sign here, so that when it goes out to my form, my Word document, it's already formatted and I don't have to figure out how I want to do that with Word. It's just easier to do it here. So I'm going to do that for all of the order items in here. There is no subtotal in here. This is what I was trying to get at earlier. And I'm just going to do that for everything except for the next 3. And then the last thing I'm going to do is convert this into JSON using JSON generate, which takes a pointer variable, Xbasic variable, and makes JSON out of it. And then down here, I'm going to use this word merge function to take a invoice template that I created and create a new invoice. And here, it's a bit long, but I'm using this app UUID, API UUID create to generate just a unique number so the invoice names don't collide. You could use a date here or an increment number or whatever you want. This is just what I'm doing. And I'm calling rem special to remove all the hyphens out of it. So make those two, the template, the end result step, call the function. And if we look at result here, scroll all the way back up. And just look at what was returned. It had no error, and the file it created was this C users, documents, etc., 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 invoice underscore B255 in my default web projects folder, and there is B255. If we take a look at it, that's the data we were just working with. So that's how this works to merge the data into the template I already have. How I created it, I'll show you that now. We go back into that function. There is some code I've got commented out here. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna comment these guys out like that, and then uncomment this. So this here, this is how I figured out what I needed to put in my Word template for placeholders. I ran this function called Word template from sample JSON. So I knew what data I wanted. I knew I had to have it in a JSON format. So I did all this part first, and then I just took that JSON that I generated, gave it to this function, and Alpha Anywhere generated a template called invoice underscore template.docx for me from that data. So I'm just going to remove this debug one for now, and we're going to run this in live preview. I don't think it matters which one, live or working preview, for this, if that's a question anybody has. Log in, add some data to the cart, verify it's in my cart, go to checkout, check the box, submit, and then I'm going to go look in my web projects folder for that invoice underbar template. And there it is. If we open this up, this is what Alpha generated for me. So it doesn't look like much. But the thing to note here are these double bracket word bracket things. These are special like variable placeholders, and the name of them is escaping me right now. But what I did was I generated this file, and then I went off and I found, or maybe you build it from scratch. I found template I wanted to create, and I just came over here and I grabbed the things I wanted and copied them out. So let's add phone here. So we'll tab into that cell on this invisible table here, and I'll copy it using Control C, and then we'll go over here to the template, and down here after zip, I'm gonna paste it. This is customer, which you can see here. I'm gonna here go over to design, turn these on here. So these are nested objects. So customer was a variable in our data that had a bunch of sub values, like the name, address, city, and state, and the email. So those are all here. They have to be inside these brackets if you want to reference that data. And these items, this starting and closing customer tag, need to be in a table. Table doesn't have to be visible. Notice that I had to turn on the borders here so you could see that. But the way that our word merge function knows that you're referencing some sort of subset of data or a bunch of line items, and a nested JSON array is the term we often use, is if it encounters it in a table here, then it's like, oh, I need to go inside this object, and then everything in here is going to be relative to whatever. It's going to be a property off of that object. You can, if you don't want these borders to show up, you can certainly turn them off. You can do that here. But the key thing to know is it's your first row in your table has that starting tag, and then it doesn't matter. You can put all these in one table cell. You can put them in a whole bunch of different table cells. They don't need to be in any kind of structure, but you do need the opening and the closing tags on their own separate lines. And that's the same thing I did here down for order items. So I found over here, I found my order items. I went through this list here. I figured out which ones I wanted. Didn't really want product ID, but I wanted product. I wanted price. I wanted quantity. And I also wanted to display a total, but the total was nothing because when we did the cart in the Farmington app, we had that total column, but that was actually just a client-side template that did some math on quantity times price and formatted it and displayed it. The total value for the total field was nothing. It was empty, which is why I had that calculation in the Xbasic to compute the total for each row. So if we want to do something like, let's say we wanted to add subtotal here, which is the sum of all this stuff here, what I would do is first I would create a new field here. We'll call it subtotal. We'll set it equal to 0 at the start. And then in this loop, I would say subtotal equals subtotal plus total. So that's gonna accumulate the total value over the entire, over all the order items. And then down here, we would say data subtotal equals subtotal. We'll just leave that as a number right now. I'll save that. I'm gonna go back in here. Well, first I'm gonna go over to that invoice template here. I'm gonna close this. I'm not gonna save it. I'm gonna delete it here because I want to make a new one that has the placeholder for subtotal. And I'll walk back through this. Our login, we'll pick a farm, add some stuff to the cart, look at the cart, check out, check the button, submit. I didn't see any errors, so that's good. Go check in here, there's our template. And now if we search in here, down at the bottom, there's subtotal. So what I would do at this point now is I would just select subtotal here, I would copy it, I'd go find my other template, this one, and I would just paste that there. So now if I save this and we go back and we change this back to do what this was originally doing before, so we'll comment all this out. We'll uncomment this, block of code down here. Do a preview. Click login, select the farm. Add some things in the cart. Check out the cart, go to checkout, agree, submit, and then go back and look in here and find the one that was created at 1:30. That's got our subtotal in it now. So that's how you can take some JSON data, get a template, and then start to create something in Word, if Word is the document of choice you want to use.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple questions. First of all, someone had pointed out that they had used, let me find it, word merge Python as opposed to word merge JSON function in their code. And he's like, is one better than the other? Do they work differently? Should I use one in different cases?
They do work differently. So like one of the biggest differences between the two is word merge Python requires Python, but word merge JSON doesn't.
Okay.
And I think we have a little discussion in here about that. It doesn't require Python. I think that's the big one. Also,
Okay.
if anybody's out there has been using A5 word merge or wordmerge.net, both of those functions require Microsoft Word to be installed, and neither word merge JSON or word merge Python require that.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. I think word merge Python may also require that any nested JSON array data has to be in like a very strict table structure where each value is in its own cell.
Okay.
There's this comment here, says supports looping over nested arrays in the JSON data without having to use word tables. I think that might be slightly misleading because I haven't found a way to do this that doesn't require that you take your nested data, let's find that, and put it in a table. The table can have just 3 rows with 1 cell in each row, but I haven't, like if you were to take this out and just have it like plain text inline as in the document, it's not going to merge it.
It won't merge it, right? It'll just
No, it
think that
doesn't
it's
merge it.
whatever it is. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
gotcha.
so I'm still digging into that. We did have a question come into guides about that this week. So
Fantastic. Another question: is there a way to, well, there's a couple questions, but is there a way to automatically open up the resulting Word document? In your example, you clicked on the thing and it built it and it created
yeah,
a file. Okay.
there are ways to do that. I didn't successfully get far enough along in my demo for this week to figure out what that solution is.
Sure.
But like, once you get that file, what you do with it here, you could, I think the process is you have to move it over into the create like a temporary file over in the session for the
Right.
user, and then
In the
have it
session
download to the
space.
client.
Yeah.
But you could also, at this point, you could email it to someone. You could convert it to a PDF. You could shove it in a database.
Right.
The sky's the limit almost.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Another question: is there a method in Alpha Anywhere that allow you to take that Word document and then turn it into a PDF so
Yeah.
that there is? Okay.
I think so. Yeah. Um,
Cool.
this, ignore that. Okay, let's see here. I believe so. Might be in PDF printing utilities. No, it's not here. This is totally something different. I'll have to find it, but there are ways to do that. We have ways to do that.
I see our solutions engineer, Dion McCormick, has asked a question. Perhaps we should answer that one.
Oh,
Yes, I think you should. The shoe's on the other foot, pal.
And that was about images. Can you do images? Can you send
yes.
image data over? Oh, you can. Okay. How
Mhm.
does that work? Kind of.
With the image field.
Oh, okay.
So I think in that, go check real quick.
I don't read
Yeah,
very
it doesn't do
good.
it automatically here, but there's a way to do it. We have a video, I think, shows how you do that.
Awesome.
But yeah, you just need to change the field placeholder in Word to say, hey, this is an image. And then it knows what to do.
Cool. And then our merge function will handle it.
Yeah,
All right,
in
cool.
fact, if you look at Word merge Python, that's where the video is. But the example that we show here, which this walks you through the whole process of making all those placeholders. It includes, I believe it did, images. Is it that one? It was one of these ones. I don't remember.
Okay.
Oh, it's this one. Okay. It's the Word template from sample JSON function actually shows images in the output.
I see. And they use a URL in this case. So you could put it on
Yeah.
S3. So you could put it on an S3 or something like that. Keep your images there. If you
Yeah,
wanted.
that's gonna be a thing, is
Yeah.
that the image has to be accessible by that Word document.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Would you mind pasting that link for this page into the document, into the chat window?
Yeah. Actually, what I might do is just go up to the parent here of Microsoft Access Functions, because all of them are in here.
Oh, fantastic.
Where I moved it. There it is. There we go.
Wonderful. So someone asked, well, does this work if your data spans multiple pages?
I don't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah. So in other words, that table would just keep going and going and going.
Yeah, it would.
And Word
It would
would
just
handle
keep
it the way that
going.
Word handles tables. Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. If you've constructed your Word template so that it at some point caps at some height and then cuts everything off, that's going to be problematic. But
yep,
it should just grow.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I think, all your regular Word formatting directives, page breaks, etc., you can insert, and therefore it will like auto break on a new person, things like that. Or
yeah, whatever you put in the template, it's gonna do. Yeah. I'll
which brings us to the.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What was your question?
Carry on. No, which brings us to the final question, which is, not final, but what is better about using Word over, say, the Alpha Anywhere report writer?
Knowledge access. If you've already got a ton of Word templates that you've been using in your company, like this gives you access to them. It might not be practical to convert all of that over into our report writer. So we want to make sure you can generate the reports you need from the report resources that you've been given. If it's not something that you're going to build yourself.
Yep. It also, if I can make a comment, it also opens up the ability for the business users to basically give you the report format, and then you just insert the values where you need them. So you can actually have the business users generate the report format, and then you just create the merge capability. So it provides some neat things there. And also allows customers to create their own, like if you had like a web-based system, basically you'd say, hey, yeah, here's the commands. If you want to create your own version of this, then, give me a Word document that has these things in it, and I'll do the merge on the website, something like that. So a lot of interesting aspects.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I like that. Let's see, a couple here. Can you place headers on each page? So again, that would be up to Word, and Word does let you do that. So that's not a problem. Let me see what other questions I could find. Oh, back to your script that generated the data for the mail merge. Could we take a look at a couple of the lines? Just it's a Xbasic question.
Yeah.
And I think it was the, okay, lines 3 and 4. Turn those numbers on.
Where's the line numbers?
I know.
Can I do that here? There they are. Line
There we go.
numbers 3 and 4. These?
Yeah, dim data SP, dim data dot customer
Customer.
SP. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's literally the question we've been asked. And that was to
Oh.
just create the pointer variables and create a,
Mhm.
and also to define that data has got a property called customer, and that itself is also a pointer variable.
Yeah.
So if so we saw a couple of sort of common questions that are coming up. One has to do with just JSON in general. I know that we have some documentation for people who are maybe used to working in Xbasic or other programming languages but aren't familiar with the JSON data format. Can you point to some documentation resources that would be good for that?
Mm-hmm.
And that
Right.
there's that one great JSON that's like starts from square someone put together. It's a great page. Yeah, that's it right there.
That's
Huge,
the one.
awesome. Yep.
Okay. So I'll put that in the chat window as well.
Yeah. This has got it has a ton of stuff.
This
in
is
it.
exciting stuff. I've never used the Word template feature with Alpha before, and I've known that it's existed, but this is
Yeah,
this opens
it's
a lot of possibilities, actually.
no, yeah, it's quite new actually. It came out a couple of months ago, I want to say.
Yeah.
Well, the original Word capability came out a couple years ago, and it was driven by a customer account who said, "Hey, we have all of our business users creating these
Yeah.
letters and templates like that. Can we just grab those and use them?" And it was like, And that was posed to someone in the team, and they go, "Yeah, we can do
Right,
that."
and that was the one
That
I
was
think that
cool.
used the technology that required you to insert to have Microsoft Word
Correct. You had to
installed
have a
Word
license
installed.
for it.
in order for Alpha to be able to create that template for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So because of that Word install requirement, I don't think you can actually use like Word merge, A5 Word merge, and A5 Word merge.net in the Alpha Cloud scenario.
Right. Right,
That is
or any type
correct.
of
Yeah.
cloud
Adding
scenario,
this,
or even
um,
behind load balancers where you don't know where a file is going to be located. Yeah.
yeah. So like that's
Yeah.
another reason why this is being added.
Yeah.
But
Much
eliminating
more
the need to
modern.
even have Word installed to create these documents, I think is quite nice.
Very cool. Trying to read through. I've got some general questions here, not specific, but I'm trying to see if I can find a few more that are specific to this before we move on. Which I think we have gone through them, it looks like. Terrific. All right. So let's come up here to the top. And so some more general questions. So we're going to start with the first one, and that is there a way to programmatically choose the color of the text in a view box based on the value of one of the columns of the current row?
Yeah. The answer
Excellent.
is yes. Yeah.
Thank you for your answer.
I imagine they want an example. So
I suppose, yeah.
yeah, let's do it in here. So
You know, they always do. As annoying that is. Why can't you just accept the word yes?
I know, exactly.
Let's see, data source. Data. Do I have static? I do have static as an option. Sample data names. All right, fields. Here. So let's go over to our layout. I'm gonna go to the freeform editor because this is where you can just do client-side templating. So the client-side templating is a really awesome language. I don't know if language is the right way to describe it, but it's markup you can use to create your viewbox layouts, your list layouts, your I think even in control bars and inform views, there's some places you can use it there. But in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a command. I'm going to find this if logical expression. Okay. So enter, and then I'm going to insert another one. I'm going to go down here and find the else if. Or actually, no, we'll just do else. Okay. And then hit enter, and then insert the closing if. So this is a client-side template if expression. All of these start and end with a curly brace. The asterisk if is the start if. Logical expression is going to be some JavaScript thing. So in here we could say something like we'll insert our field state. And we'll remove the brackets because we don't need them in this context. If state equals MA, because I think that was in our data source. Yeah, it was. Cool. All right. So we'll go back to the layout. If state is MA, then I want to say like div style color orange. And then in here, we'll put one of our fields. We'll put in first name and last name. All right. Otherwise, I'm going to copy this, paste that there, and we'll say the color is blue. So if the state for the record is Massachusetts, it will print this HTML out, which will make the text orange. Otherwise, it'll print it out here and it will make the text blue. And I think this will work in preview, but we'll see. There we go. So John Smith is in MA. These guys aren't. Nancy Clark is in MA, and these guys are not. So yes, not only can you do that when you're dumping out this div stuff, but you can get really crazy with this. And I believe you can do something like if state equals MA orange, else blue, and if, don't quote me on this, this might actually not work, but you can.
Actually, I could say it might.
You can,
Yeah.
there are, I believe
put
you can put client-side templates right inside the style markup in places. Which I'm going to tell you is not super readable right now.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So this might not like it because of all the double quotes we've got going on in here, but let's see if it works. There you go. There we go.
It did.
That really compacts it. Is that easy to maintain? In my opinion, no. I like things.
By the way,
a bit bigger. So
one of our brilliant developers kind of pinged me on the side and said, one way you can do it is just create a set of CSS classes and then have that class name in your results, and then you can just substitute classes. That way, if you need to tweak anything, you just do it in the class and you're done. So it's a really nice technique. And
that would be that is it.
Yeah, this could just as easily have been class. You could have some computed JSON value that has the color in it if you want that.
Exactly.
You could also make
class
this
like
a JavaScript function that you call over here that computes it for you on the fly.
And the cool thing with class names,
to do it.
Sorry, the cool thing with class names, you can call them anything you want. So you can call it like urgent or behind or, etc. And then that gets translated into a CSS that then has like red colors or things like that.
Right.
It's a great idea, and I just wanted to share that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So another question, completely unrelated this time, it has to do with UXs and specifically lists. So they have a list that makes that has got some check boxes in it, and they were wondering, can you add a select all option so that the user doesn't have to click everything in a particular list? So maybe their list was, they filtered it or something like that, and they wanted to say, yeah, these are my records.
I think there might be a JavaScript command for that. So.
Kidokido. Let's do this.
Sarah's on it.
On it.
Showing how it's done.
We have a list here. The layout's probably huge, so I'm going to take back all that stuff.
Yep.
So over here in list properties, we have has checkbox select control. Find that property. There it is. I'll turn that on. And it has customizations in here. there's a checkbox down here. There you can check. This says it has check uncheck all controls in the column header.
Ah, okay.
So you can turn that on. And if you also remember to insert the checkbox selector into your rows.
Okay, that's a good
All
point there.
right, make
Thanks.
sure you do that,
Yep,
otherwise they won't
yep,
show up.
yep,
You should have a built-in box that does that for you.
yeah.
So that's the top, check all, uncheck all, check all, uncheck all.
Oh, okay.
Check some, yeah, so that's built in.
So built in, easy to do.
Yep.
Perfect. We have a question. Oh, this is a follow-up from a question that we got at Guides earlier today. I don't know if we have the answer to it, but did we figure out the documentation for putting numbers on the badge? The badge button issue?
That is,
That
I
might
think
still
the
be
question is,
Invoices.
did I publish it? No,
Yeah,
I was working on this.
it's not yet. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's every once in a while, something will just get stuck on my hard drive and I forget to push it up. But that's
To
gonna
push it
go.
to the, okay.
Yeah.
So
But
for the,
on the button badge, if you've got a button, hold on, I was gonna put some panel cards in here.
okay.
So that this looked nicer. Ooh, but not like that. Definitely not like that. Better. Okay. So let's put a header in here. Actually, don't want that. Button. So buttons have, it's over here, this show badge option. And there's badge settings in here. If you want to programmatically set the badge, we have this helpful link right here that you can click on that shows you how to do this. There's a property called, or a function called set badge that you can call on the button. And that's in the documentation right now. So we'll go find it. It's part of the A5 button class, but the
Badges.
control you get for the button is this, and this is the function you would call to set the text in that badge.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Nice, excellent, thanks. Let me see what else we can find. Okay. This was a question about having two, let me just make sure I understand it here. Yeah, having a child UX, in other words, linking two UX components so that there is a parent and child relationship between the data in them. Can you talk a little bit about that? And that might also come onto the notion of data binding UX components in general, and how that was a way that we had connected up UXs in the past, but typically we're now binding directly to lists. So I wonder if either one of you might be able to speak to that.
The question was doing a parent-child relationships with whole components?
Yeah, with UXs, yep.
There's a couple of different ways to approach that.
Yeah.
You can use like embedded UXs, so you can have a parent UX and then it takes care of the parent editing and then a lower level UX there. You can also do it with list control because you can kind of connect multi-list controls. You can have a parent list and a child list and then connect them together and have editing environments, detailed views that are doing it. So it really depends on kind of the user experience that you're looking for. Obviously, the list control is really powerful because it's all on the same page and it's super fast and you can do things disconnected. But I definitely look that direction for doing a parent-child structure.
Yeah. Cool. So if we could just drill down now just a little bit further, if we take a look at that, and it was an example with a UX with child UX components, how do you make sure that data on one is synced to the other? So for example, if you had, I don't know, maybe you had a detailed record on customers, but then you had a list of the orders that they had made from you. How do
Right.
you know? How do you sort of synchronize so that when you choose a particular customer on one UX, you're only looking at the orders for the one below it?
So we actually have a UX component template you can look at that I think is doing what you're talking about. It's this mobile app host UX thing. The mobile host UX, and this is actually 3 components. You create all 3 of these and follow the instructions in them. They will connect together, and it's a demo.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, so that's in here. I would recommend looking into that. I believe it works off of the Northwind database. In fact, we can go ahead and look at this first one.
Mhm.
And up here it says important prerequisites. Double click that guy. It's going to explain to you everything you need to do, including downloading the SQL file that you need.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, this is a component designed to be the UX equivalent of a grid with a row expander. So what it's got in it, this is the parent, and it has customers and some control bar stuff here. I think the way this works, this has been a while since I looked at it, but I know it's here. Host. So you want to make all 3 of these.
Right. So you want to go to, if you're looking at this example, instead of choosing one template, you actually have to choose 3 templates.
You have
right?
to make all 3, yeah, and then hook them up.
And you said use the filter term host.
Yep, use the filter
Underscore,
term.
you'll find them.
Yeah, there's orders. So it's got some parent, it's got customers in it, and then it's got two children basically. It's got a payments child and an orders child, and all of these have a detail view in them.
Yep.
And the database that you need is this this link right here is described in the prereqs. It also explains what connection string you need to make. So
okay, so it's documented how to use the example right there up at the top.
I wonder if I added this in here. UX template.
The trick behind it is you can have arguments that are bound and then use a refresh command to say refresh the embedded UXs. It's pretty slick.
Oh, cool.
Looks like it hasn't been in. Isn't in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you find it in the product itself,
yeah. You can get more information to people if you want it.
Yep.
But yeah, take a look at this template example. It shows you what you need to do.
Cool. Awesome. I think that answered the question. That's it. That looks like it for questions, though. If I missed yours, or if you have another question, or if you suddenly think of a question as soon as the webinar ends, which happens a lot, you can go ahead and send an email to guides@alphasoftware.com. So, Sarah, thank you very much for presenting today. Dion, thank you for hanging out and answering questions as guidance, and thanks to all of you who attended today. Again, if you've got questions, send them to guides@alphasoftware.com, and we look forward to seeing you next week at our next Wednesday webinar. Take care, stay well, and goodbye.